Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. So great to be along with you today. I've been calling for it for, I don't know, more than months. I've been calling for this for even years when Joe Biden was in office. I said Joe Biden needed to be hauled into Congress to testify. Now, when he's president, that was going to be hard to do. The moment he left office, though, was the moment you needed to call Joe Biden in to give testimony about what he thinks his mental capacity is. He needed to give testimony about the auto pen once that scandal was uncovered by the Heritage Project's oversight project, which was a fabulous piece of investigative journalism. Who else needs to be hauled in? You need to haul in Jill Biden. She is the queen of the White House. I believe she was the marionette keeper, the one that was pulling the strings on everybody. Jill Biden, the caretaker-in-chief, needs to be hauled in and asked about the auto pen. Why do these people need to be called in? Because we're not going to get any answers from their staffers and administrators. Everybody now is taking the Fifth Amendment on the grounds that they tend not to incriminate themselves. Now, they're asked some poignant questions, questions that are not criminal in nature. Did you think the president had had the mental capacity to conduct his duties? And that's not a criminal in nature question. They're taking the fifth on this. This Anthony Bernal, the chief of staff for Jill Biden, goes in and again takes the Fifth Amendment for every question. It is very incriminating. Now, a court of law cannot look at it as it's incriminating. That is absolutely correct. You are well within your constitutional rights to take the Fifth Amendment. But I'm not a court of law. I'm a commentator. I give opinion. And in America, we're free to have opinions. And my opinion is when you take the Fifth Amendment, it looks very incriminating. It is perceived as incriminating. So we're going to talk about this, go through some of the things that are being talked about bringing Joe Biden in and Jill Biden in to testify about all of this. Before we get to that, folks, I want to tell you about my friends over at energizedhealth.com. This is about intracellular hydration. What do I mean by intracellular hydration? Getting hydrated at a cellular level. And here's what happens. Joint pain starts to go away. Skin conditions start to clear up. Brain fog starts to go away. This is about hydration at a cellular level through patent-pended scientific protocol that Energized Health has created. And here's the real benefit. You start to shed body fat like crazy. I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks. I've managed to keep it off because the Energized Health system is a way of life. It's no crazy diets, no crazy workout plan, literally just a commitment to change the way you think about some things. And the next thing you know, you're losing weight like crazy. No drugs, no supplements, none of that. EnergizedHealth.com. EnergizedHealth.com. Make sure you tell them that Grant Stinchfield sent you. All right, with that, folks, let's get the program started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, welcome, everybody. So Jill and Joe Biden need to be hauled before Congress because if anybody knows the truth about Joe Biden's mental capacity, how the auto pen situation was working, what was Joe doing while he was in the White House, what shots was he calling, the answer is none. Jill and Joe would be the ones that would know those answers. Now, this is what's interesting. When I was an investigative reporter for the NBC-owned and operated stations group, and I apologize about the towel, there's no air conditioning in my studio today. The AC broke, and it's a nightmare, quite frankly, in the Texas heat with no AC. When I was an investigative reporter, young reporters would come to me if they were working a story and ask me advice on how you do the story. And they would want to go undercover. They would want to dress in disguise, concoct all kinds of ways they could get the story. And I said, yeah, before you do all those things, have you tried the simplest way to get the story? Just ask the person at hand, will you talk to me? And oftentimes, maybe 50%, the person at hand, the subject of the investigation, would talk to you, or those around him would talk to you. So you didn't have to go undercover, risk legal issues of recording people against their will and all this. You literally just ask them. Well, Congress has a power even stronger than just asking somebody. They have subpoena power, and they can subpoena Joe Biden and Jill Biden before Congress, and they will probably claim executive privilege. Joe Biden may offer Jill Biden executive privilege. That may be fought through the courts. But the Democrats need to realize we are not standing down. We are not giving up. So fight that battle in court. If we lose, we lose. But let them know we're going to fight this battle, because the people at the heart of all of this is, of course, Joe and Jill. They're the ones that I want to hear from. That is the testimony America deserves. Will we get it? Depends on how much fight Republicans have in them. And oftentimes, they don't have a ton of fight, which is really a problem. Now, this is Anthony Bernal. Anthony Bernal is Jill Biden's chief of staff. By all accounts, he was a key player in the White House. And I want you to listen to him while the questions are being asked, because this is typical of who Joe Biden brought in. By no means do I think Joe Biden is a beta male. In fact, I actually think Joe Biden is probably an alpha male. He's quick to snap at people. Before he got real old, he held himself pretty tall. He talks about fighting people all the time. I mean, the guy's not a beta. He surrounded himself with betas, though, which is really weird, as compared to an alpha male like President Trump, who surrounds himself with alpha males and alpha women, for that matter, as well. Joe and Jill Biden, no. They love the mealy mouse wimp.
Mr. Bernal, did you ever advise President Joe Biden to pardon his son, Hunter Biden?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Thank you. We're going to go off the record real quick.
So they go off the record, okay? And they're going to talk to him, I'm sure, about, are you going to take the Fifth Amendment for every question we ask you? Blah, blah, blah. He's going to say yes, and then they're going to come back. Now, let's go listen to this first question one more time, okay?
Mr. Bernal, did you ever advise President Joe Biden to pardon his son, Hunter Biden?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Now, did you advise Joe Biden to pardon Hunter Biden? It's interesting because the one pardon that I believe is strong as steel, worth gold, is Hunter Biden's pardon. Why? Because we know Joe Biden signed it by hand. We know Joe Biden made the decision himself. Maybe he was advised on it, but ultimately made the decision because he signed it himself. It's the only pardon he signed himself. That's not a coincidence that Joe Biden would sign the pardon for Hunter Biden himself and use the auto pen for all others. Joe Biden wanted to make sure that my son's pardon is set in gold. Now, Bernal goes off the record here. And let's see if I can get that. And then they come back.
Thank you. We're going to go off the record real quick.
Here's where they go off the record.
Okay, we'll go back on the record.
And then they come back.
Mr. Bernal, was President Joe Biden fit to exercise the duties of the president?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Was he fit to exercise the duties of the presidency? What is criminal? I don't think there's any law that a White House staffer has a duty. You may have a moral duty. You may have a patriotic duty. But I don't know if you have a legal duty to have an opinion that the president's not fit for office, and you've got to rush and notify who? He's the commander-in-chief. Other cabinet members? Then it's up to them to exercise the 25th Amendment. But I don't know if there's a legal standard. What are you protecting yourself from? What criminality are you protecting yourself from? These are not criminal questions.
The record reflects that Mr. Bernal has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Mr. Bernal, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Mr. Bernal, did any unelected official or family member of President Joe Biden execute the duties of the presidency?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Now, that's one I could see him taking the fifth. Did anyone under Joe Biden execute the duties of the presidency? Meaning, did anyone steal those duties from Joe Biden? And how do you steal them? You steal them with an auto pen. You write pardons. You create executive orders. Remember that executive order that Speaker Johnson said, hey, I went into the office, said, you banned liquid natural gas exports. Louisiana's a big exporter of LNG. Mr. President, why? Oh, I didn't do that. I just signed a study on that. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, then who signed that executive order?
Let the record reflect that Mr. Bernal has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Mr. Bernal, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
All right, so we can go through this on and on and on. They're important questions. They're not being answered. Jill and Joe Biden could answer them. Now, I had made the recommendation when Joe Biden got right before he got out of office, he left one important name, maybe two, off of the pardon list. He should have pardoned Jill Biden of any and all crimes, and he should have pardoned himself of any and all crimes. I don't think Republicans are going to waste their time on Jill and Joe Biden. I really don't. Now, to me, it's not a waste of time. I'd love to see Jill and Joe Biden prosecuted. Come up with a slew of things. Jill Biden especially, because I think Jill Biden was the puppeteer in all of this. Now, James Comer went on, I believe this is with Sean Hannity last night after all this.
You plead the fifth to avoid self-incrimination. If he said under oath that Joe Biden was not in mental decline, then there's a very good likelihood that he's lying, and he knows he's lying, and that can be proven in a court of law that he's lying. That's why they're pleading the fifth. We asked the doctor simple questions. Were you ever told to lie about Joe Biden's health? And he pled the fifth. Look, this isn't getting any better for the Bidens. This isn't going to go away for the Bidens.
All right, so that's an interesting reason as to why you take the fifth, because you don't want to lie to Congress. Now, here's another novel idea. Don't lie to Congress. If you thought he was unfit to execute the duties, say, yeah, there were times where I thought. Or you could use the old tried and true, I don't remember. But taking the fifth is really, it's not a good look for the Biden staffers.
What's at stake here, Sean, is all of these executive orders and all of these pardons that were signed using an auto pen. There's no evidence that Joe Biden knew anything about these executive orders and pardons, and there's no evidence that he was even capable of understanding what the pardons and executive orders would have been if he had been involved in the decision-making process. So it's unfortunate that Jill Biden's chief of staff, and who she often referred to as her work husband, Anthony Bernal, had an opportunity today to go in and tell the truth and defend the Bidens and say, yeah, he's in great health. No one ever lied about his health. But instead of saying that, he pled the Fifth Amendment.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't look good. So who has the answers to all of this? I'm going to tell you right now, it's Jill Biden. Now, will Joe Biden, a former president, will they really call him in? I don't know if they will. They talk about it. They said they will. Byron Donalds, Comer. They're never going to get Joe Biden in front of Congress. The reason being is Joe Biden's going to be unable to answer questions. You look at what President Trump does with the media, standing out there for hours, answering every single question. His staff is not afraid of what he's going to say. Where Joe Biden, you get with the media, his staff's like, oh, no, buckle up, Buttercup, here we go.
There was nothing asked in the beginning that would pertain to doctor-patient relationship. This was
So this is Comer talking about the doctor. Remember, Joe Biden's physician, also a beta male, by the way, takes the Fifth Amendment when being asked about Joe Biden's conditions.
a question. Were you ever told to falsify medical documents for the President of the United States? And he pled the Fifth. And then we asked the question, did you ever doubt his mental capacity to fulfill the duties of the presidency? And again, he pled the Fifth. The only thing he answered was his name.
So, again, you have all these staffers pleading the Fifth Amendment. Let's get Jill and Joe. Byron Donalds talked about this.
Your leadership on this issue. First things first, that's just crazy. You can't answer a simple question about the former president's ability to discharge his duties, and you worked in the White House as chief of staff to the First Lady, and you come in here and you plead the Fifth. He can say whatever he wants in his testimony, which, by the way, his attorney read. He wouldn't even read his own statement. His attorney read his statement for him. So you came in there and said that him pleading the Fifth is not an admission of guilt or anything about what was going on in the Biden White House, or was to give any inkling to the fact that Joe Biden was lacking in capability. The fact that he couldn't make any statement, the fact that the White House doctor couldn't make any statement, and they both pled the Fifth, which is their constitutional right to do, and we respect the Constitution like every American does. But the fact that they are now hiding behind the Constitution so that they don't have to tell the truth to the American people about Joe Biden's capabilities and mental faculties while he was president of the United States is not just shocking, it's stunning, and it demonstrates the level of corruption that was going on in that administration. The chairman is being nice. I don't have to be. This is corruption at the highest level. Because if you cannot answer a simple question about Joe Biden's capabilities, then that further demonstrates that he was not in charge of his administration. And if he was not in charge in his administration, then every order, every bill that was signed, every memorandum, as far as I'm concerned, are null and void. And congressional Democrats need to actually step into the light and not hide behind this stuff or run away from it, because everything that administration did, as far as I'm concerned, is unlawful. If he did not have the ability to discharge his duties, then anything that he signed, or the auto pen signed, or whatever, as far as I'm concerned, is null and void. And where was Kamala Harris? I'm not going to speak for the chairman, I'm going to speak for myself. As far as I'm concerned, every member of the Biden administration at this point needs to be subpoenaed. I don't care if they were a secretary, I don't care if they were a janitor working in there. They all got to come in and answer questions for this committee.
Senator, does that include Dr. Joe Biden?
Of course. Her right-hand man, listen, Anthony Bernal is the right-hand man. That's her guy, her chief of staff. If he came in here and pled the Fifth, I'm sorry. Former First Lady, she got to come in here and answer questions. This is not that is the president's wife. I have a wife. James has a wife. Obviously, with family members, you want to do everything you can to protect your family. But if you can't answer a basic question to the mental capabilities of President Biden, then as far as I'm concerned, you now have to answer to the American people.
Should the former president or vice president be subpoenaed?
I think Kamala Harris needs to come in and tell us what she knew and when she knew it.
Mr. Chairman,
she ran for president, so she should be able to tell us what was going on.
Mr. Chairman, do you agree?
Again, notice they didn't say Joe. They know it'll be a battle to get Joe in there. But the absolute fact is that Joe Biden needs to be called. Ask him directly. Tell me about this person. Do you remember hearing anything about this guy that you pardoned? This guy that you pardoned? If it's no, I don't remember, then you really start to ask questions. Did you specifically sign off on this? And now you're going to have emails. Now you're going to get Joe Biden lying to Congress, right? Because you're going to have emails of like that 10:03 email to Jeff Zients about all the pardons, and 3 minutes later he responds, I approve them all. Why is the chief of staff approving the pardons instead of writing Joe Biden has approved them all? So that alone is very, very damning. He did say bring Jill in. She is the one that's going to know a lot, and that needs to happen. And also notice in there, and I played the whole clip. I know it was long, but I played it because what he said is what I have been saying. It looks to me like there is only evidence that Joe Biden didn't know what happened inside the White House, and there is no evidence that shows me Joe Biden did know what happened inside the White House. I mean, look at all of the evidence I'm getting is that Joe Biden was out of the loop. I haven't seen any evidence to say Joe Biden was in the loop. That's odd, right? We're not even being provided evidence that Joe Biden knew what he was doing. We got lots of evidence that shows he didn't know what was going on. That means they orchestrated a coup at the highest level of the United States government. Every one of these executive orders should be null and void. I'm sure President Trump already null and voided them. And every one of these pardons should actually be null and void. And if there's some legitimate ones in the mix, well, then President Trump can sign off on them. And I'm sure there are some legitimate ones in the mix. You know, a blind squirrel gets a nut every now and then. But by and large, every action this administration took, you got bills signed into law. Did the executive branch sign it into law, or did some ass clown working an auto pen sign it into law? We're going to get to the bottom of it. All right. Folks, listen to me. I want to tell you about my friends over at Patriot Protect. They are fabulous. And let me tell you what Patriot Protect did for me. So I had all kinds of information on the web, my address, my phone number, really all information about family members, email addresses. I signed up with Patriot Protect at patriot-protect.com/grant. They went onto the dark web. They went to hundreds of data brokers, and they got my information removed from those data broker sites. They went onto the dark web, got much of that information removed. I went on the other day and was shocked to see how much information was removed. So patriot-protect.com/grant. It works. Use the promo code GRANT for 15% off. They will wipe it clean. The worst part is many of these data brokers are selling passwords now. There was a leak of a recent leak on the dark web of passwords that are current. They'll get that cleaned up for you as well. They'll let you know where your information has been leaked and why you need to change your passwords. But the great thing is of getting all this personal information wiped off of the web. I'm happy, beyond happy with the folks at Patriot Protect. Go to patriot-protect.com/grant. That's patriot-protect.com/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 15% off. All right. Mamdani in New York. This guy is a real problem. And it's not that he's the most dangerous guy in the world. It's what Mamdani represents. He's running for mayor in New York. He got the Democrat nomination. He is, calling him a socialist is going easy on him. This guy is a Marxist. He's a communist Marxist. And this is what he wants to do to New York City. Now, he went on with News 12 on Sunday to talk about some of his plans. Let me play for you one clip.
You know, I have said that I'm a democratic socialist, and I've defined that in many ways by the words of Dr. King decades ago, who said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. There must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country.
So anytime somebody starts bringing up Dr. Martin Luther King, who I actually truly believe was a conservative, democratic socialism is a term coined by Bernie Sanders, not Dr. Martin Luther King. I don't believe there's any such thing as democratic socialism. Okay, you can't have a democracy with socialism. You can't have a representative democracy with socialism. The two do not go hand in hand. In fact, they are complete opposites of each other. So when someone looks you in the eye and tells you I'm a democratic socialist, not only should you duck, don't ever turn your back on them because they're dangerous. But what they want is communism in America. What they want is a dictatorship in America. And what this guy will do in New York is ruin business and industry. New York City may be one of the most important financial cities in the world. I don't know if it's the most important anymore. It most certainly used to be. With technology today and how so many things are spread out, I don't know if New York is still. You can make an argument it is. I think everyone would agree it is still a very important city when it comes to the financial well-being of the world and the economy and how business runs through that city. He could destroy the real estate market in New York very easily for the things that he wants to do. Here's another clip of him.
Too often, as Bob was saying, fight back against an authoritarian administration and Donald Trump's attempt at ripping up the very fabric of the city that we call home, of the country that we belong to and that we love. We know that his policies, they are not just disappearing our neighbors, detaining our friends. They are also turning the world away from our city.
No, you're turning anybody who wants to invest away from New York City. Now, let's think about Donald Trump as an authoritarian. What authoritarian do you know that starts to decrease the size of government? I've never actually heard of that. So they just laid off, as I told you, 3,000 people at the State Department, some through buyouts, 1,400 people at the Department of Education. Every agency is cutting fat all along the way. What authoritarian does that? Wouldn't they want more bureaucrats coming in to carry out their dictatorial mission? No. And in fact, President Trump says to all of you, I don't want you giving more money to the government. I want you giving less money to the government. Now, in an authoritarian dictatorial regime, they get rich off the government. Russia's a good example of this. They're getting rich off the government by taking taxpayer money. Ukraine's a great example of this. China's a great example of this. Who are the wealthiest people in the world? Everyone associated with government. We do it our own way through lobbyists and, of course, lawmakers through their inside information. But for the most part, if you're an authoritarian, you're going to want people paying more taxes. But President Trump says, no, I want the masses paying less taxes. I want to decrease the amount of tax money coming in from individuals and businesses, ultimately increasing the amount of tax revenue because you're spurring the economy. People are either making more money or you have more taxpayers in the system and all those reasons. But in the end, if he says to you, I want you paying less, it's not authoritarian. I want all the criminals off the streets so you don't have to live in fear. It's not authoritarian. I want people who come to America to do it legally. And if you came here to America, you have an opportunity to self-deport yourself and then come back the right way. We're not going to hold it against you. You're being given a chance. Sign up today if you're here illegally on the self-deportation app. Do not risk getting caught and then never being able to come back to America. Self-deport yourself. This is not authoritarian. This is literally taking back a country and making sure that people just follow the rules. Mamdani doesn't want that. What Mamdani is an Islamist. You know, I talked to my buddy Joe Pinion, who ran for Senate in New York. He's very concerned about Mamdani as well. He won't go after the Islamic factor here as the Islamatization of America unfolds before our very eyes. I believe it's a very dangerous religion. Now, are there good Muslims out there? Yes, I have Muslim friends out there. They're good, but I urge them to explain to me the religion that calls for a lot of really bad things. Now, you can make that argument about a lot of religions, I guess. Some would make the argument Muslim isn't a religion, that I'm not going to say it's a takeover of the mind, basically. But either way, I'm concerned about the rise of Islam in America because they push Sharia law. They push killing of gay people. They want to create their own court system. Not everybody, but we see this throughout Texas, and it's very, very real. So now, Mamdani wants to be mayor in a city where you got an awful lot of Jewish people. And I mean an awful lot. He talked about globalize the intifada. And he will not denounce that. The intifada is basically the eradication of Jews. He was asked about this at this town hall.
At your defense of the slogan, globalize the intifada.
I can't speak to the media coverage of it. I can tell you that I'm looking forward to that meeting with Congressman Jeffries. And in the conversations that I've had with him, they have come back to the very urgent issue of affordability.
So what does affordability have to do with globalize the intifada, which is basically the holy war against Jews and Zionists? Tell me. This guy's a dodger is what he is. And he loves to dodge questions. Now, I'll lastly play this to you because For a guy that denounces capitalism, this is rich.
I worked until January, and then I took time away from my job. And one of the major reasons I could do so was because I knew that if I ran out of my savings, my family would be able to support me.
Oh, isn't that nice? Your family could support you. Do you think under any world in a, quote, socialist communist nation, a family is going to support their son? No. They did it because they're wealthy. And they don't want to, he doesn't want to tell you that. But this is par for the course of these Democrats that come from wealthy families and then pretend that they're these champions of the poor. Mamdani is a phony, baloney, fake fraud, except believe what he says about wanting to socialize grocery stores and all of this. Now what's really concerning is you got this guy popping up in Minneapolis. Now, Minneapolis, the Islamization of Minneapolis has been going on for a long time. Somali population there, the rise of Islam. It's a frightening sight sometimes in Minneapolis. This is Omar Fateh. I don't know how you say his name, but he's running for mayor now. Listen to this.
I'm ready to work hard to 1. Build a Minneapolis that working people can afford to call home. 2. Protect our city from a hostile White House. And 3. Diversify our city's public safety response. By increasing the minimum wage to $20 by 2028 and passing rent stabilization to stop price gouging and incentivizing new construction, we can protect workers. Protecting all of our communities from Donald Trump means not letting MPD interact with ICE, whether it's for an immigration raid or not.
Let's raise the minimum wage $20 in Minneapolis. What do you think that's going to do to the small business owners there? These people are nuts. They don't believe in the American way. How do I know this? This guy embraces Somalia more than he embraces the United States of America. Does that sound familiar to you? Remember Ilhan Omar? Somali, she's the same way.
We should make dua for him and pray for him. I understand that our Somali communities are all connected to each other here in Minnesota and back home, and I ask for your support. There's always been a link between our community here as well as back home, and I'm running to bridge that gap and unite all of us and represent all of us, because when we succeed here, we succeed everywhere. And I'm hoping to do that just like Abdrazak, inshallah.
So you want to run in Minneapolis to be mayor so Somali can have success. This is the opposite of America First, by the way. This is dangerous. Who does he report to? Who is he putting first? Is he putting the Somali community first? Everyone should be put equally if you're the mayor of any city. If I was mayor of Dallas, Dallas is a blue city. It would never happen. But if I was a mayor of Dallas, I would put everyone equally. I represent a black Democrat the same way I would represent a white Republican in the city of Dallas. I would do what I think is best for the city. And I would want to make sure there's equal opportunity for everyone. Equal opportunity for everyone. No one gets an extra step up just because of your color, just because of your religion. But I'm there to help everyone equally to succeed in America. That's what it's about. It's about opportunity. Again, something these people do not understand. And honestly, it's frightening when it comes down to it. Let me before Stephen Moore was a guest on the radio program. We talked about inflation a little bit. We talked about this big, beautiful bill, and now the second phase of it, the rescissions package, $9 billion. But $9 billion, when we have trillions in debt, that's like having $10,000 credit card debt and putting, I don't know, a penny towards it. Something like that. Not a lot. We're going to talk to Stephen Moore, President Trump's economist, one of them, in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to tell you about my friends over at the Wellness Company, twc.health/grant. That's where I want you to go. And I want you to think about getting yourself one of these parasite cleanses, okay? The parasite cleanse is it's not 3 months, but they give you a 3-month supply of mebendazole and ivermectin. 50, 60 million Americans have parasites causing skin conditions. If you have a pet, A dog, there's most likely you have a parasite. I started my cleanse, and instantly I started to feel better. Even my digestive system started to improve. So again, go to the wellness company, twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT and get one of these parasite cleanses. What's so disgusting in this is that you're finding this in fish at the grocery store. If you look sometimes closely, you'll see these worms crawling around in your salmon like this. Those are in your body, your brain, your spine. I think the Liver King has parasites. So twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off and do what I did. Get on this parasite cleanse. And then don't forget, we got the emergency medical prescription medicine kits. Your kid comes down with strep throat and you know it's strep. You don't need to go to the doctor. You're going to have what you need in this kit to treat that. Handy guidebook to tell you how to treat it. Lots of prescription medications in here. God forbid, natural disaster, terrorist attack. Who knows? The wellness companies is going to get it done for you. I urge you, go to get the kit from the wellness company, twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT. All right. Stephen Moore, guest on the radio program. He's great, and I want to play some of that for you. All right? Here we go. Roll it. You know what's great?
What?
We finally started that revisions packages now coming through the United States Senate. Vance, rescissions. Yeah. What would I call it? Revisions?
Revision.
Yeah, well, you know what? Revisions is a better term for it.
The revisions on the rescissions is what we have.
The revisions package. It's like the Heimlich remover is what I call it, not the maneuver. It's a much better term.
I'm removing my Heimlich.
J.D. Vance cast the deciding vote.
Yeah.
To push this through the Senate. We're going to defund PBS and NPR and claw back USAID money. This is good stuff.
Yeah, it sure is. And you know what? We're going to celebrate that with Stephen Moore, who you hear right now chuckling away. You can give him a follow at Stephen Moore. Get his newsletter every single day. We use it here on the program at the Committee to Unleash Prosperity.com. Committee to Unleash Prosperity.com. Sign up for the hotline. And hey, Stephen, good morning.
Good morning, guys. I mean, I'm literally dancing around my office today. I mean, this is I've been working for 40 years on trying to get rid of wasteful federal programs, and we've never been able to do it. And Grant is right. This is an amazing accomplishment that we actually eliminated 3 programs. Folks, I hope you're sitting down. You're probably startled by this revelation that out of thousands of programs, we finally got rid of 3. But so long PBS, so long Corporation for Public Broadcasting, so long for wasteful foreign aid programs. And this was quite an accomplishment. Now, we got every Republican, but I think 2 or 3 in the Senate.
It was Murkowski and Collins that didn't play.
Well, and then also the former Senate Majority Leader from
McConnell,
Kentucky.
Mitch McConnell.
I think McConnell just loves Sesame Street. I think that.
Well, he is sort of turtle-esque, so I think he appears sometimes as one of the Muppets.
Yeah,
it made me laugh though,
I'm
Steve.
really excited about this. If we can get rid of these 3, and by the way, I bet there are some of your listeners say, "Oh my gosh, I love Corporation for Public. I like the Masterpiece Theater and that." And I'm like, look, if it's so great, if you love it so much, why don't you pay for it?
Yeah.
We have hundreds and hundreds of radio stations, hundreds and hundreds of. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys at Morning Answer? Do you get taxpayers?
We do not get taxpayer money, and that's what makes it so unfair. Yeah. And what I also think is crazy is that everybody is fear-mongering. We've been spending the whole day, Steve, talking about ICE and the ICE raids in California. I mean, literally, there's so much fear-mongering that it's getting people hurt. Yeah. But you had Chuck Schumer yesterday, who goes out there and says people are going to die because they're not going to be able to access NPR and PBS. Are you kidding? I think maybe they won't be able to sleep as easy because it's a snooze fest over there. But come on.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, this is so over the top. And listen, I like some PBS stuff, and and they all they have to do is have some telethons.
Let me just.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
I know.
Donate $100 and you get your. Look, I guarantee this stuff is not going to go away. I think they will raise the money, and there's no reason taxpayers should have to fund some of the far left crazy stuff that's on those stations. Exactly. So that's really good news. And then foreign aid, the foreign aid money, that's the old saying, the only people get rich off foreign aid is rich people. None of that money actually gets into the hands of the people that that need the help around the world. So great victory. Now the bad news is, so we should celebrate this, but it's $9 billion out of a $7 trillion budget.
Not enough.
Like, if you had, let's say you had a debt of $10,000 and you said, okay, I'm going to do something about this debt. I'm going to reduce 50 cents from my budget,
Yeah, that's it, is what it is. For everybody out there that has little kids, most people don't watch Sesame Street on PBS anyway. You get it on the streaming platforms.
It's on
all of
Max.
these others. Yeah, it's like HBO Max. So that's not a problem. The other thing I'm applauding, Stephen.
By the way, can I just stop you right there for a second? Do you know how much money Sesame Street makes?
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
Elmo and Cookie Monster.
Big Bird's tax bracket is way up there, Steve.
Sesame Street's not going anywhere. All right, the other thing to celebrate. The State Department and Department of Ed, but specifically the State Department, gets rid of about 3,000 people. Half take a voluntary buyout, half get pink slips. You had, listen to this. Jen and Stephen, I want you to listen to this. You had 60 HR offices. You had 60 divisions that were making their own payments from the State Department. It took Rubio 3 months to get a list of all the employees. In the HR department, they were using fax machines. Fax machines.
Hey, I like a fax.
Okay? And lastly, I'll leave you this. They had a climate change office and an Afghan resettlement office.
Hold on. What is a fax machine?
It's this little thing. It's magic. It duplicates paper from one location to another.
No, I mean, you're making a very important point here, Grant. I mean, these agencies are living like it's the 1970s. I mean, we saw with the air traffic control towers. Oh, yeah, I've got my, K-Pro computer here, managing the flights, that are, only 40, 50 years old. The government stuff is so outdated. You have literally people with cobwebs in their office. Nobody knows. That's true of every agency. I mean, the worst is the Pentagon. I mean, Lord knows what people do in the Pentagon, but we could cut that bureaucracy by 30%. So I'm so pleased to see this, and everybody in Washington. So you guys are out there, in real America, but in Washington, people are, oh my God, my heart bleeds for these people. Oh, they're, these dedicated public servants who haven't done a goddamn thing in 6 months, and what are we going to do about them losing their jobs? Like, welcome to the real world.
Yeah, I know, and that's kind of. Go ahead, Graham.
Well, I was just going to ask you if you mind if I asked Stephen a real quick question on inflation.
Yeah.
Stephen, we saw 2.7% inflation. It ticked up last month. What I was talking about on this program and others is that we saw 3.7% wage growth, which was up from year to year, more than inflation. So wage growth 3.7, inflation 2.7. You do the math. Am I doing it right, Stephen?
Very good point. No, you're getting your A in economics. I hope you're listening to this guy. He knows what
I'm
he's
copying off of his
it's
paper today.
No, it's an excellent point you're making. That if wages and salaries are going up by close to 4% and inflation is 3%, that means people got a 1% real increase. And the reason that's important, Grant, is it was exactly the opposite under Biden. So inflation was going up by 5%, wages were going up at 3%, and every month, people like my wife would scream at me saying, I'm losing money. You have no idea what it costs to buy groceries. We don't have enough money to cover all this. And that's why the Democrats lost. So, and by the way, how is it that the left is, 2.7% inflation, my God, the sky is falling. Wait a minute, we had 9.1% inflation under Biden. I didn't see them running around like Chicken Littles.
It's sort of like Epstein. All of a sudden they care who's on the list. I mean, it's amazing how priorities shift depending on who's in the White House.
Right.
Man, oh man. All right, make sure you follow Steve right now at Stephen Moore. He's got the More Money Show, which could be coming to a radio station near you very soon.
I'm so excited.
And of course, you can get his newsletter, Committee to Unleash Prosperity.com. Sign up today for the hotline. It is free. Stephen Moore, thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
Okay, guys.
Thank you.
All right, that is the great Stephen Moore. It's always great when we have him on. When you think about inflation, it is really an important distinction. You had wage growth of 3.7%, inflation at 2.7%. That means you got more money coming in than going out. As opposed to, as Stephen Moore said, 9% inflation under Joe Biden. The media was quiet. Really not great. All right, Let me tell you, folks, my friends over at Patriot Mobile, so great. I'm telling you, I love my Patriot Mobile phone. This is it, and it's a regular iPhone, but I have this phone because I believe in America and I believe in the folks at Patriot Mobile. Why? Because they believe in the things I do. If you're still with the same cell phone company, you are funding the agenda of the woke left. Patriot Mobile, literally, every portion of a call that you make, the money that comes in goes to conservative causes that we respect. First Amendment issues, school board races. You talk about gun rights. You name it, Patriot Mobile is on the front lines fighting for us. So you don't have to switch networks, okay, because you choose what network you want to be on. So you're not going to lose connection service. Customer service you will most certainly gain. They're 100% U.S.-based. One of the reasons we love Patriot Mobile. And their leadership team is fabulous. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. Use the promo code GRANT for a free month service. 972-PATRIOT is the number. They'll make you a deal to switch. There's a performance guarantee that if you're not happy, hey, you just change the network. So you're gonna constantly have the best service possible. You can also get 2 lines on one phone from 2 different networks, which is super, super great. So again, PatriotMobile.com/Grant. 972-PATRIOT is the number to call. Use that promo code GRANT for that free month service, and make sure you tell them Grant Stinchfield sent you. All right, we've talked about the State Department yesterday. I did an interview with Mike Benz. Many of you know who Mike Benz is. He is a former State Department employee. And what he had to say, the insight he gives into the waste, fraud, abuse, and even maybe more importantly, the mindset of the average State Department employee that would be incapable of carrying out President Trump's agenda was fascinating to me. So I want to play the interview that I did with Mike Benz on Real America's Voice. Here it is.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Mike, you worked inside the State Department. Give us a look at what most of the employees think and believe inside the State Department.
This day could not come fast enough. Inside the State Department, if you were a Trump political appointee, you were persona non grata. The fact is the State Department is overwhelmingly career officers who have been deemed unfireable, untouchable, and it is that apparatus, this vast Byzantine bureaucracy, is a feature, not a bug. It is so outside stakeholders can have their own little boutique control center within the State Department, which manages America's global affairs, so that outside stakeholders can make sure that no matter who's president, that office runs autonomously and can accomplish their ends, whether it's voted on by the American people or in the U.S. national interests or not. I noticed, for example, that one of the officials who contributed to reporting on this noted that one of these offices in the democracy, rights, and governance field in the Bureau at State was unionizing foreign labor workers, and this was actually causing tension for senior political diplomats because the careers were secretly unionizing foreign labor so that it would shake down local companies. I saw that in the disinformation space when I was working to try to rid internet censorship from the U.S. federal government. I saw State Department employees trying to get trusted flaggers, trying to get censorship workers who were flagging posts all day in the Philippines to get them unionized so that they couldn't be fired. This is the sort of thing that a government is banned from doing under our First Amendment, and we're working to make sure that not only is there government censorship in foreign countries, but that the people doing the censorship can't get fired, and you have the State Department helping them get unionized to do that. The fact is the State Department has been filled with people from both sides of the political aisle who are at odds with Trump foreign policy. The State Department is supposed to follow the foreign policy set by the commander-in-chief and the democratically elected president of the United States. They have been untouchable from Truman until Trump. The day is finally here, and I think this will send a message for decades to come that you can only push things so far before the people demand accountability and take action like President Trump and Marco Rubio did this week.
All right. again, Mike Benz, you worked inside the State Department. Now we have 3,000 people leaving that department. It's a big, as I said, I think a $50 billion budget. Will the State Department be able to operate? Will national security be put at risk? Because this is what the Democrats are screaming and yelling about. Yet I see protesters out there on the screen right now. They literally have all the signs that Democrats would paint. Democracy under fire, diplomacy under attack. All of these, left-wing catchphrases are on the signs, which tells me they're all left-wing workers. But what does this do to national security?
It vastly improves it. This is just like when Elon took over X and fired 85% of the staff, didn't change a thing about the site except made it more streamlined, more efficient, and a much better product. It's the same thing at the State Department because these folks have been untouchable and they have taken that license to do anything. The fact is I, as a political appointee, I vividly remember my orientation day at the State Department. You are effectively threatened as a political on day one during your orientation about all the leverage the careers have over you, all the different committees they have to take action against you if you do something, all the different manner of recourse. You're constantly reminded the little cog you are in the vast machine, the vast wheel of the machine. And this is the sort of thing that allows them to set their own foreign policy regardless of what the president does. The fact is the State Department has not been serving the United States. It has been serving outside stakeholders and getting rid of the influence of people who are only in it for their own profit because they have their own little node at state is step one to cleaning this mess up.
All right, what you just described to me, going in as a political appointee and being threatened at every level and telling you how the insiders have more control. I had dubbed that long before the deep state was ever coined a phrase, a ruling class of career bureaucrats. It is the deep state. What you just described is the deep state, that ruling class of career bureaucrats, is it not?
Oh, it absolutely is. It's designed to make sure that the consensus of mostly internationalist folks from both sides of the political aisle get their agenda done, regardless of whether the president wants to pursue a nationalist policy or wants to pursue a change in course. This is why I come back to the fact that when you have 60 different HR offices, that's not a feature. That's not a bug. That's a feature. That is not a mistake. That is to make it so that you can't fire those people unless you go through that office, unless you want to get rid of the whole division, which has been unthinkable till now. If there are 60 different payment centers, well, that's because they don't want to allow any sort of centralized way to cut off payments to a particular operation. It's designed this way on purpose so that you can't get anything done unless all of the cogs in the machine agree in a consensus, which means you're going to need to get support from, 50 different senators, from 12 different think tanks, from 100 different NGOs, from 40 different outside financial interests. If what the American people vote for is what the president wants to do, they can't do it under this structure. So if these functions are deemed necessary, it is as easy as pie to stand them back up. If we decide that the American people want to vote for some sort of climate resilience fund in sub-Saharan Africa and staff people to do it, that can be stood up. But it has to start from a totally clean slate because the State Department, because it's also the House of Secrets. This is also where CIA and USAID and DOD work runs through. And so when you see congressmen saying that we can't get any transparency about it, then you don't even know what you're approving in terms of these grants. And they have that on purpose so they can set their own foreign policy so outside stakeholders can take advantage of initiatives and rules and regulations that the American people never voted for. That ends now.
You better believe I think you're spot on. This was set up by design so they could hide it. Hide the payments, hide who they're hiring, hide their agendas, hide all of it. And really, these days are coming to an end, and it's great to see. Mike Benz, as always, I love your insight on all of this stuff, buddy. Thank you for coming on. A big thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Mike Benz is fabulous. And he's really become an integral part of the Real America's Voice show. We got some regular guests there that really bring fabulous insight. I talk about Stinchfield's Army all the time. Most certainly you are all part of Stinchfield's Army. But the big players, well, you're the big players because without you, we'd be nothing. But the other players, the officers per se, are some of the regular guests that come on the program. You've got Lauren Boebert and Andy Biggs from Congress, and then you've got people like Mike Benz and all my immigration guys like Art Del Cueto with Border Patrol Council, and then don't forget all of our RAV correspondents who do such a great job working either in the border or in the Middle East. I call them chaos correspondents, but I urge you to check out the Real America's Voice show if you haven't, because I put it up against any Fox program out there. Guaranteed. Only we're unleashed, and they're not. All right, that is going to do it for us today. I urge you to check out my website, GrantStinchfield.com, Stinchfield1776 on all the social media platforms. Do me a favor, like the video, share the video, and that helps us spread the word. Subscribe to the channel, no matter where you're watching. Please do that, and we will see you tonight on the Real America's Voice show. I'm Grant Stinchfield. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you soon.